Just noticing the suggestions as one settles and giving time and space, setting a intention, reconnecting, sense of well-wishing, sense of safety with the situation one finds oneself, the particular time and space, the particular here and now, particular joining or gathering. And the style here is 15, 20 minutes of reconnecting, recollecting, and gathering, and body like this, particular experience, shared in this given attention. This knowing, this allowing, sense of permission, and the trust of the stillness of the body, trust in the capacity to be with this, a sense of aliveness in this here and now, in the practicing of this, knowing in this time and space, this particular limitation, the knowing of this knowing. Like this, this gift, this life received. And stillness and silence, the knowing, demands nothing, receives everything. Alive, and gift of attention, the whole of experience, the whole of this experience received, nothing rejected, nothing demanded, no becoming, no moving. And this knowing, and the body in particular of this is like this. The enduring is like this. The well-wishing like this. The knowing is this. The welcome of this experience, this gathering, collecting, reconnecting, and recollecting. knowing the power of the suggestions, this knowing cause and effect, how this moment is received, the attention in which it's received, and the knowing, it just is. It's like this. And support in this welcoming, the capacity in this receiving, the knowing of this knowing, this gift. A breath, a rhythm, received and released. Not demanded, not rejected. Life, and the knowing, Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Causes and conditions. Causality. And ignorance. Not knowing what is not known. These principles. Causes and conditions. And ignorance. And how we relate and how to understand and work and or generate causes and conditions that are less confused, less ignorant, and less painful. Because when we don't know what's happening, we don't know why it's happening or what's happening, then we tend to get caught with things that aren't particularly, that make things that make more problems for ourselves and others. And the patience that works with that, and I don't know, at the moment, these the people here are uh, going back to basics for the samaneras and the bhikkhus here, studying the vinaya, that's called the discipline, the training what the Buddha offered as a training form. And the intention of the training in the form is to protect the protect and guard and um, support the teaching. The teaching is causality, freedom from ignorance is the goal. And so you have this very complicated set of training rules, which were developed over the life of the Buddha, shifted and adjusted and all of that, and then were codified and put into uh, structure. But for most of us, and for most of you, to figure out what's enough and to figure out what one might want to add. And if we're doing this um, as humans in the world, and we're communicating and doing and acting and communicating, it's helpful to have a structure that one can at least go to and reflect upon and consider to know how am I communicating, how am I conveying information or using this strange form of words and sounds and thoughts and um, written symbols and the symbols that are happening in my head and the symbols that are happening that I'm producing, and how are they being um, worked with. And the basic training for humans is quite simple. It's the training in the five precepts and basic human behavior training: not to kill, not to steal, not to be sexually irresponsible, not to lie, and not to take intoxicants. But maybe if you want to take this a little bit more refined and really look at the causes and conditions for quite a lot of um, um, uh, misunderstandings and ignorance, to look at the communication business, because that's the area of sila that is stressed in what are called the 8 precepts for lay people, which are interesting because they do go an awful lot about speech. So the one of not killing is you probably figured out um, that not to kill human beings, not to kill your parents is really important. That's the, and that can also, if you want to extend that, is not to deny the gift that has allowed us to be where we are now. This is not to reject uh, the past, but to use it wisely. And the best way we can relate to our past is to transform it into something that is beautiful for the future. However it might be in the past, to use it in a way that in the future it is beautiful to honor the past, and not in this moment to seek to destroy or to harm. And the basic thing is not to kill, not to kill humans, not to kill animals. The attitude towards and not to kill oneself, not to kill. Uh, as you know, I tend to encourage vegan um, for the sake of the humans involved, not so much for the sake of the animals, but for the sake of the humans involved, because any sort of life involves death. But the humans involved in the production of the fish and the flesh have to uh, desensitize themselves in order to do what they do, and that is sad for the humans. Um, raising fat or fishing, industrial scale, that sort of stuff is you have to ignore the pain that is being generated by that in order to do it, 'cause it's too difficult to continue. But people do it. So, and the whole factory thing is not so very good for things. And the whole business about abortion and euthanasia, all of that, to be incredibly careful about that. For monks, it's automatic if we act in ways that are intending to shorten the life of a human, um, and people act upon that intention, then one is automatically not a monk. So it's a very clear boundary for the bhikkhus that to encourage the shortening of a life um, is 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 and for people to act upon that um, is it's called like broken, like a rock broken. It can't be put it back together again. That sort of the life as a bhikkhu is broken. So we don't encourage that. Or speak in ways that we feel that people would uh, use as an excuse to act on those. And stealing, taking that which is not given, is a whole business. That that's the whole sense of not stealing is acts out of a sense of inadequacy. I need to get this sense of acquisitiveness, uh, well, not being able to cope. And the thing with life is that one can cope. When life is happening, then that one is coping. One can transform one's relationship to it. And part of this stealing is not to take things to, not, if one doesn't steal, one doesn't take things for oneself. One doesn't, um, one sees things as belonging to nature and not to, um, not to claim them. Definitely, that's sort of the highest non-theft. But the then the third one is not to, not to. For bhikkhus, the third one is no sexual activity, which is not to add to stuff and to make things more complicated than they are. Um, and to keep things really, really simple and straightforward. So, but the fourth one is not to lie, but in the 8 precepts, these are extended. These are extended. So you've got not lying, not backbiting, not harsh speech, and not frivolous speech. So you've got 4, 4 things, which if one reflects on how we communicate and the confusion and the pain of communicating in ways that actually can cause more ignorance and more harm. So not lying is reasonably straightforward. If you know something is one way and then you deliberately try to distort it, then what one's doing is increasing ignorance. So not, and ignorance is the root cause of all our problems. And well, what about white lies? What about this lie? What about that lie? It's not. It's not. It's not necessary. There are ways of keeping speech in accordance with truth, keeping communications in accordance with truth that um, don't need to distort. It requires sometimes a little bit of cleverness, and noticing um, what one does when one uses any of these precepts, the 227 precepts, or the more for bhikkhunis, the 8 precepts for the Uposatha, the 8 precepts for lay people, the 5 precepts for lay people. What one notices is what intentions one's putting out. When one wishes to break the precept, what is the intention and an intention is a cause. What is the condition that conditions this intention? And then what is the result? And this is a way of sustaining attention, so one notices and one learns what is happening here and now. And freedom from ignorance is the goal. So using this as a way of understanding what's happening. So it's not a question of trying to make things pure, but to make things clear. And noticing the lack of clarity that happens when one does uh, overstep these precepts for oneself and for others, and the effect of that. So it's a harsh speech. It's a lying, harsh speech, um, telling tales, which is like disparaging people behind and disparaging things, and then just frivolous speech and this frivolous communication. And this is interesting because the speech that we have with others is one thing, but the talking that we find most of the time is the talking that we talk, speech that we do to ourselves, talking inside our head. And how do you talk about yourself to yourself, or talk to yourself? How do you think about yourself, and how do you think about others? And thinking is a type of, is in one aspect of the training, or the explanation of the Dhamma is, it's a type of talking, deliberate thinking, or just rubbish thinking. So how do you talk to yourself? What sort of tales do you tell yourself about yourself and about others? What sort of stories do you have going on in your head? And are they just frivolous? Or are they harsh? Or are they just um, sort of telling tales about yourself or about others that are just trying to disparage yourself or disparaging others? What sort of stories do you tell about yourself to yourself? And what do you believe in that? And how do you use that? And if you decide that you're going to take a precept and say, well, I'm not going to tell foolish stories about myself. I'm not going to believe the the way that my thoughts work, and somehow give them more energy than they need. They're just this much. And I'm not going to try to deceive myself. It's very difficult to not deceive oneself, because we not knowing what we don't know is the nature of ignorance. And so finding a way to know what's not thinking is really helpful. But to know the thoughts and to not believe them, not to follow them, the thoughts about oneself, the stories one tells about oneself, how much are they leading to more pain for oneself and for others? One believes them and adds to them. And this is something to really use the um, the sila, the basic restraint, or the basic um, boundaries of behavior as a way of cultivating wisdom. One actually only breaks the sila when one actually does act externally. The thinking is not a breaking of the sila, but as a way of knowing what leads to that uh, is helpful. To use the reflection on what's lying to oneself, what's speaking harshly to oneself, what's telling tales about oneself or telling tales about others, or just frivolously talking, or just using abusive speech. You know, the sense of thinking about somebody and wanting to blame them or to blame oneself. Noticing that, and then, if it comes out, then that's the the breaking of the precept. And then the last one for the 8 precepts is the one of not, of being careful with one's livelihood, so that one's livelihood is not one that is involved um, in killing or in exploiting or just false or involved in things that actually are harmful. It's interesting. It's interesting. In the 8 precepts for lay people, there's not the thing about not taking intoxicants. That's interesting. So to know that is it, and then to know, as somebody said about taking intoxicants or mind-altering substances. If one's already ignorant and doesn't really know what's happening, then the taking of something that's going to alter it any further is just going to increase the ignorance because it won't become from a stable foundation. So the idea that somehow mind expanding drugs um, somehow help, all they expand really is ignorance. So it's the mind expanding drugs or the mind blowing drugs expand ignorance because they're based on ignorance. The wisdom comes with patience and with care. And patience is supreme sustainer and the supreme transformer through the sense of being able to stay with something, the stillness, things that are really and I find the things that are really worth it are things that one gives a sustained effort to, Just fleeting stuff doesn't work. Patience with something, and patient endurance is the sustaining thing. That's the transforming thing. Staying with it, sustaining the energy of free from greed, free from hatred, and free from confusion. And part of the freedom from confusion is knowing, hey, what's happening here? And the willingness to notice that what one doesn't know, and knowing the unknown. Without hope and without fear. Hope and fear are so close. So close. Hoping for something, one will try to get it, and one will ignore. And fearing, one will try to run away from, and one won't face. Both, they're two sides of the same thing. Not wanting something to happen in the future. If you hope for something, you're frightened that it's not going to happen. If you fear something, you hope that something else will happen. It's the same energy. It's very strange. That it's not to say there shouldn't be aspiration. It's not to say there shouldn't be some sort of zest or interest. But the zest or interest is one that's based on a sense of safety and sufficiency. Sense of whatever happens, I can deal with it. I can go with this. I'll work with it as it is in the moment. I'll be with this now. That's why the sitting meditation is quite helpful. The walking meditation or the moving meditation or the meditation through the day is a way of gaining more wisdom as to, oh, well, that's what's happening, and that's what's happening, and you don't tend to fall asleep But with the sitting meditation, if you can sustain that, it's very, very helpful as a way of gaining patience and endurance in the moment. That's what I find. So use the sense of giving yourself a, a, a structure for your life, a sense of I will train to not kill, not steal, not lie, to not spread tales or to speak harshly or to speak frivolously. And I will try to sustain this life in a way that is not exploitative and not harming. So, in the sense that, and then this is something that you can give yourself. I mean, the basic 5 precepts is what you give as a way of um, giving safety and freedom from fear, or freedom from a sense of peril, freedom from peril. Really, you're not in, you're not you're not giving people something they need to be um, uh, feel in peril from, in danger from, freedom from danger maybe. Or you don't feel dangerous around people who are keeping the 5 precepts. Don't feel there's a danger around that. You can relax, and you give yourself a sense of freedom from danger because um, you're not going to regret anything with the basic 5 precepts. With the 8 precepts for lay people, or the 8 precepts of renunciation, the 8 precepts of renunciation are the ones where you give up sex and you give up entertainment, and indulging in sleep, or blanking out. The 8 positive precepts, which is give up distractions, which um, in this day and age, it's probably give up the internet and don't give up going to movies, which is again a way of like containing the energy and not letting it leak out all over the place. So you give yourself something to sustain the sense of being in this present, in this now, in this here, in the place where the freedom is possible now and here, because this is the only place we've got, this time, this space, with all its sense of the past, all its unknowing of the future. It's like this. This is where this is where the transformation takes place. The personality is no longer considered to be more than it is or less than it is. this, this body and mind is where the freedom is found. Freedom is from this sense of believing in this body of mind is somehow personal. Its part belongs to nature. It's just like this. And this is what we can offer. And this is what I tonight, or whenever you watch this in your whatever time and space you come across this. If it's helpful, it's helpful. If it's not, leave it behind. Uh, enjoy. Thank you. Probably enough for now. If there are questions, please send them if you wish. You might know that there are Zoom talks that are arranged from Singapore over the next 3 months, and you probably have got a little picture now somewhere as a message to everyone that's got all the different dates of all the different monks that are going to be giving talks based in Singapore. You can say that and look at it at your leisure or leisure, depending on your pronunciation, your own time and space. Yeah, enjoying ways that are pretty or satisfactory Is that a sort of sensual pleasure? Yeah, it's a sort of sensual pleasure. And the sense of me doing it is a way of adding to it. It's not particularly wrong, um, but getting too precious about it is um, not helpful. In my family, parents' love is not, ever since I remember, question. I started to think about this. I might be due to the sense of insecurity. All sorts of family histories that one might think one have. If you feel your parents don't love you, nobody loves me. Um, Competition, other people get praise, and other people and I get criticism. And neglected one in the middle. I'm the middle one. I'm the end one, or I'm the first one. Uh, Causes and conditions. Don't notice the stories that you tell yourself about your personality. Don't believe any of it, or don't take it too personally. Don't take your personal story too personally. Yeah. Frustration is helpful. All I promise people when they come here is frustration, because the great philosopher I call Jagger. So, no questions? Okay. Ajahn. Oh dear. Pain. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay. How do you feel about karma? If we break sila, we may have the effect of it. What about those so-called white lies to avoid problems or that protect something from somebody harm? Find a way around it if you possibly can. Um, it's never really skillful. You can find ways around them. Um, you need to maybe think more clearly about it. Notice the feeling of what you're doing and why you're doing it and what the effect of it is. Um, I'd be careful about thinking um, that lies are somehow justifiable. I think it's great to use drugs to help yourself not get too painful sometimes. To think uh, that that one for you, that facial thing, which you get what trimedial neuralgia. It's extraordinarily painful. Um, Find a way with it. I know some people who've had it who gave up doing the pain drugs because they thought it was damaging them in other ways, and they managed to work it out. But I certainly feel that there are times when you need to numb yourself, just so that you don't get, because pain I find makes me stupid because I just want to get away from it, and so I can cause myself more pain for being stupid. Um, and But still, with pain, to know what's not hurting is helpful. Find a way not to add to the pain by thinking, "Well, I don't want the pain," but the sense of when I talk about people sitting meditation and they have pain in their knees, I say, "Well, the first time, notice the pain. The second time, notice the pain and say, 'Well, I will deal with you.' The third time, say, 'I really will deal with you.' and the fourth time or the third time say, I move out of compassion for the body. So when you're taking the painkillers, say to yourself, I do this out of compassion for the body. And may this be a way of easing pain for the moment, and so that there can be a greater perspective on it, or a gentler perspective on it. So yeah, so it's a difficult one. Strong pain. Some people deal with chronic pain, and some people deal with it in different ways. But not to add to the pain, notice the sense of not wanting the pain and how much that adds to pain. Notice the sense of I'm doing something to get rid of the pain because I can't stand it. Whereas if you say, well, I'm doing it because I have compassion for the body, you can change the intention so the um, so the words that you're using in your head are kinder and less violent, um, and less um, divisive. So use the words when you think about your pain. Think about the pain. Think about it in a way that's kind, and use words that are kind towards it. Because the body's just doing what it's doing. It's not trying to hurt you deliberately. It's not working well, and it can't help but do what it does. It's doing what it does because that's what it does. It really doesn't have a choice in the matter. You have a choice in how you relate to it, but the body just does what the body does. And if you think, well, it needs to have some drugs for the moment, then that's a good idea. And fishing, what do I think about fishing? Is it less violent than eating other animals? Um, Fishing is fishing. It's a funny old business. Um, there's commercial fishing, which is very strange. It's just ripping stuff out of the ocean. That's not incredibly kind. Um, and there's fishing for pleasure, which is a very strange thing to do. I know one of the monks used to like to go fishing with his father. They used to go down and sit by the river quietly, and they'd go fishing. But he wouldn't put a hook on the end of his line. Just fish without a hook, because he liked to sit close to his father. But he wasn't going to put a hook on the end of the line. He didn't want to actually catch anything. So you can do that. Don't put a hook on. Go fishing without a hook. If you know, for any food that you eat, the food that you eat is, we've talked about the four nutriments before, and eating food, the way to relate to it is if you're crossing a desert and you're a couple who have just one child, and you decide to eat that child so that you can continue to cross the desert. Um, and so you eat the child. That's how you should think about eating any food. The way that the child was supposed to die in this story was that the mother would send the they decided that they were going to eat the child. So the mother sent the child to the father, and the father couldn't kill the child. So the father sent the child to the mother, and the mother couldn't kill the child. So the mother sent the child to the father, and the father couldn't. Eventually, the child died of exhaustion, running between one and the other, and then they ate him. So if you can think that if you eat anything, you have that attitude, then you'd eat very carefully. Um, so you have to eat. You have to eat. And then even if you're vegan, you're still involving death. What is the role of frustration in the spiritual life? The role of frustration in the spiritual life is to transform it. It makes the heat that allows the life to be transformed. So if you don't do something that you feel you really must do, what happens? What happens? And then that's really, really interesting. How long does that last for? It's not that one shouldn't do anything, and it's not that because doing something that's helpful, you're going to be frustrated because there's going to be mistakes and there's going to be things that you need to correct and all that sort of stuff. But if you can cope with a sense of frustration, you can transform things. That it's the heat that transforms. It's fine to be frustrated. And in case you haven't noticed, all of life is one huge frustration. The nature of life is that it's frustrating. And it's not supposed to be otherwise. The responsibility is to transform the life into a blessing rather than a curse. And that's how you respond to the frustration. Patient endurance and care. Okay. Do you think existence is absurd? Yes, it is absurd. It's how it is. It's beautiful. Did we go somewhere nobody knows? Does the body decay? Yes. Is there a conscious spirit going on? No idea. How do you deal with existentialist crises? Frustration of realizing the tragedy of life. The tragedy of life is that it's beautiful. it's a, it's an incredible, beautiful gift, and people don't use it well. That's the tragedy. It's wonderful that there is such a thing as life. It's been given to us. That's a complete gift. If you weren't given life, you wouldn't have the opportunity to be free. Wouldn't have the opportunity to make this life a blessing. You're incredibly fortunate. Human birth is the most fortunate birth. Probably one of the most frustrating as well. But it's the most beautiful. And all of the birth is beautiful. And we're all brothers and sisters in this. Every single human birth is an independent, beautiful existence. And we're brothers and sisters in it. We share it with everybody we meet, everybody we think about, all beings. That's our beauty. Yeah, it's a miracle. Well, it's due to causes and conditions. It's come about. It's a miracle. Okay. Double.